to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to be starting a new series. Now, I posted in my community notes about, 9-10 days ago that I wanted to start something new and original on my channel. Now, of course, you guys know I do the live Q&As whenever I can. I'm actually going to be live for the first time tonight in almost 2 weeks because I've just been so busy with work doing a Q&A with you guys. And we'll just talk off-season stuff, free agency, draft, whatever you guys want to talk about. And you guys educate me sometimes just as much as I educate you, so I love doing that. And you guys a lot of times give me ideas to do videos. And that is what this series is about. In my community notes, I asked you guys to give me questions that you would like to see answered, and I want to start doing this series with you guys, and I'm going to pick out a few here, a few there, and if you guys have any questions that you would like to see a video on after the conclusion of this, go ahead and put them in the comments below. But I picked out Nick's question, which I thought was a fantastic question. I want to give Nick a quick shout out. This guy comments on almost all my videos as of late. Seems very active on my channel, one of my better subscribers. So, Nick, thank you for the great question. Thank you for being a great subscriber. And Nick says, of all the rookies selected last year, who do you think will have the biggest and best opportunity for growth? And that is a fantastic question. When I read that question, I said, I gotta do a video on that. That's a great question. And it's a two-part question. The biggest and the best opportunity. The best opportunity doesn't necessarily mean that he's the most talented. It might mean that he fits the scheme better. It might mean that the coaching staff that was put in place is going to make him take a big leap from year one to year two. You also got to factor that in. A lot of these guys had great rookie years. For a guy like a Darius Slayton or Dexter Lawrence to take a big leap, they'd have to be Pro Bowlers because both of them were great rookies this year. They both ranked in the top 25. Darius Slayton had a great year, as did Dexter Lawrence. I love Dexter Lawrence coming out of college. And the New York Giants had a lot of draft picks, right? They had 3 first-round picks in which they drafted Daniel Jones, they drafted Dexter Lawrence, and they drafted Deandre Baker. They then didn't have a second-round pick because they traded up to get Baker. In the third round, at the back end, they took O'Shane Ximines. They also drafted Julian Love in the fourth. They had 3 fifth-round picks, which included Darius Slayton, Ryan Conley, who's another interesting guy in year 2. They also drafted Slayton, who didn't make the team, George Asafo Ajayi, who also did not make the team. I think he's on the practice squad. He's an offensive tackle, big-bodied guy. It'll be interesting to see if he could add some depth to this team, but certainly wouldn't be a candidate for me on here. And, of course, Corey Ballantyne, which was, one of the best stories of the draft class. Didn't really play well with the New York Giants, but could definitely contribute in special teams, things like that. I don't really want to see him in a starting role. Maybe eventually, but I don't think he's ready yet. I think he demonstrated that last year when he was lost all the time in coverage. But in terms of who has the best opportunity to take the biggest leap forward this year from the rookie class, you could say a lot of guys because a lot of guys have room for growth, even though a lot of these players played really well in their rookie year. And I'm going to go over all the prime candidates. And the first guy I'm going to start with is the quarterback, Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones had a great rookie year. And in my opinion, kind of got snubbed. Not really snubbed, but I didn't think Kyler Murray deserved rookie of the year over Daniel Jones. I thought Josh Jacobs probably deserved it more than anybody. But Daniel Jones played very well for the Giants for the most part when you factor everything in. This is a guy who came in and all of his weapons were banged up, right? You had the suspension of Golden Tate for the first 4 games. You had Darius Slayton was a little bit banged up at the beginning. Concussions with Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram was hurt. Saquon Barkley was hurt. Daniel Jones himself went down for 2 games. So it was very hard for him to get familiarity, to get consistency, not just with him playing on the football field, but with his weapons. And there were a lot of really encouraging things. I think he threw 24, 25 touchdowns. A couple things he needs to work on. 1, ball security. That is his primary focus this offseason. Cannot fumble the ball 13 times or however many times he fumbled it this past season. He also seems to struggle a bit in the rain. Against the Arizona Cardinals, I thought he struggled a little bit there in the rain a lot. And I think it was the Eagles the last game of the year where it was raining. Didn't play very well. And, of course, pre-snap reads. But that's common for a rookie quarterback. Those are things he needs to work on. The things that he has in his favor, for one, as of right now and going into the season, hopefully, all of his weapons are healthy. 2, he has a lot more familiarity. Of course, he has to learn a completely new offense. That's another thing that has to be factored in. You have Jason Garrett coming in. It's a completely new system. But I do think that Joe Judge and Jason Garrett will put him in the best position to succeed. I also think if they implement the offense the way I think they will, similar to what they did for Dak Prescott with the Dallas Cowboys, and they start to pay more attention to the run, it will make Daniel Jones more efficient. It also hopefully will cut down on his fumbling problems, being that and they need to improve the offensive line, of course, for all of this to work. That is the most important thing in terms of seeing Daniel Jones progress year 1 to year 2. But he's certainly a big-time candidate. For me to say that he'd be number 1, I'd have to see that. I have to see them really pay heavy focus on the offensive line, both in free agency and the draft, something that I expect them to do, but I need to see it before I say that he'd be my number 1 candidate for the most improved rookie, being that he had a pretty good year to begin with, but he's certainly up there in my top 3 or 4 candidates for most improved. The next guy I'll talk about is Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence, to me, when he was drafted, I am the first to say I would have preferred Montez Sweat, not because I was not a fan of Dexter Lawrence, but because I thought we needed more help on the edge. Instead, they went with Jimenez in the late 3rd. But Dexter Lawrence had a really, really good rookie year. We're also very deep there, but Lawrence is definitely our best interior defensive lineman. Him or Leonard Williams, I suppose you could say. I also think that Dexter Lawrence does fit this defensive philosophy well. It's all about versatility with Patrick Graham, and Dexter Lawrence could bring that to the table. He's capable of both playing on the inside, whether it's a 4-3 or a 3-4, and I think you could line him up at least in a 3-4 alignment at the defensive end position. Some things that I could see him really taking a big step forward in year 2, even though he would not be one of my prime candidates just because I thought he had such a good rookie year, and I think he was the most pro-ready, and I think he'll continue to play very well as a New York Giant. But I do want to see him bat more balls down at the line of scrimmage. That was something he was known for at Clemson. You saw it happen a couple times. I think he even got his hand on a blocked field goal or extra point or something like that, I remember. But I want to see more of that. I also, see a little more pressure on the quarterback. But overall, Dexter Lawrence had a great rookie year, and I think he'll continue that, but he would not be one of my prime candidates for most improved. One guy that is one of my prime candidates for most improved is Julian Love. He's in my top 2 or 3 as well, along with Daniel Jones. Julian Love, out of Notre Dame, was a player I was really excited about. He had a grade of a 2nd-round pick. The Giants got him in the 4th. And the MO on him when he was drafted, and why I'm so excited to see what Joe Judge and Patrick Graham could get out of this guy, was his versatility. That was the biggest attribute that people loved about this guy. That you can line him up in the slot. You can line him up at the safety. You can line him up on the outside. With the Giants last year, he played predominantly in the safety. We'll have to see what the Giants do in the offseason at that position, whether they address it in free agency at the safety spot, maybe you move him to slot corner, the draft, whatever it may be. But I do think Julian Love will be involved in this defense. He took a while to come on with the defense. He didn't start, I think, till the last 4 or 5 games, and we were calling for it every week. But because he sat on the bench, he even said this, I remember when he got an opportunity to start, I think he thrived because he got to learn without being thrown in the fire, similar to a lot of these rookies, right? Deandre Baker was thrown right into the fire. Daniel Jones right into the fire. Lawrence, same thing. He got to sit back and learn how to become a better pro, and he played very well in that safety spot. I do think he could take a big step up, though, in this defense. I think he fits it very well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they implement him in this year's defense. But again, he would not be my number 1 candidate, but he's up there. I think he could have a huge sophomore year in comparison. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Oshane Ximines. Oshane Ximines would kind of be probably 4th or 5th on my list. He's not the guy that would be number 1 for me. I do think he could be a very good player. I don't know about great player, but I think could be a good player. He also could bring some versatility. He played the 4-3 defensive end with Old Dominion. He's lined up, obviously, as a 3-4 OLB with the New York Giants. He started off strong. He finished strong. He was kind of weak in the middle. But yeah, much like Lorenzo Carter, I think he's a guy that people will be excited about in year 2. We're also going to have to wait and see what the New York Giants do in the draft and free agency at that position, and where Oshane Ximines will fall in the depth chart. But certainly a guy that I'm really excited about to see what he could do in year 2. I think he had 4.5 sacks, 5 sacks, whatever it may have been, and he had a solid rookie year. He's got to build off of that, though, and he's got to become a lot more consistent, and we'll see what role he has in the defense. Next guy I'm going to talk about, Darius Slayton. He'd be in my top 2, 3, maybe 4 rookies as well with a chance to improve, which may sound crazy being how great of a year he had last year. Now, he's not number 1 for me. My last guy I'm going to talk about but Darius Slayton had a great rookie year out of Auburn, 5th-round pick. I think he fits this offense so well. Of all the wide receivers on this offense, him and Evan Ingram, who's a tight end, I think are primed to have big years next year. Because this system calls for a lot of vertical routes, which is exactly what Darius Slayton is known for out of Auburn. Now, the book coming into the pros with Darius Slayton was he's a guy with a limited route tree, dropped some passes, I think he disproved that, at least the dropping of balls. He dropped some balls early on, but overall I thought he displayed that he had pretty good hands and he's capable of doing multiple things other than just running like a curl pattern or a fly pattern. I think he's a well-rounded wide receiver and hopefully will only get better in his second year. And I think in this system, if he's given a similar responsibility, I think he will. He also has great chemistry with Daniel Jones. That needs to be factored in. And if he hits 1,000 yards this year, I would not be surprised at all. I think Slayton is in for a big sophomore year. I'm really looking forward to it. And like I said, he's probably 2 or 3 on my list. But the guy who's number 1, believe it or not, was the most disappointing rookie. DeAndre Baker is my answer to your question, Nick. He is the guy that I think will take the biggest leap year 1 to year 2, and I have my reasoning. DeAndre Baker, some things I didn't like. Came out, said he didn't know the playbook, essentially. Maybe it was paraphrased a bit. The media made him look bad. Now, he played better down the stretch, and he did have spurts last year when you saw him play very well in man coverage. I think it was against the Bucs. He shut down their best wide receiver. Mike Evans, of course, torched Janoris Jenkins, but Godwin, he shut him down, and he shut down a number of good wide receivers in certain individual games. Other games, he got burnt like a Chris. But I think the biggest problem for DeAndre Baker last year, one, it's very hard to transition into the pros at the cornerback position. It's probably the second hardest position to transition year 1 to year 2. 2, I thought that Betcher most of the time used him in the wrong way. He's not a guy that was ever accustomed to playing zone coverage. He's a press corner. You've seen this happen with a lot of corners at the pro level. Where they play something, a different way than they're accustomed to playing, and it kind of ruins them as a player. I think Joe Judge and Patrick Graham will make the necessary adjustments. I also love the DB coach that they brought in. He's known for putting corners in that type of spot. Darrelle Revis, of course, was a press cover corner. He also got the most in Dallas out of his corners. I think he's going to get the most out of DeAndre Baker. Baker was a player I really liked coming out of college. I had him in all my mocks going to the Giants. I didn't think they'd trade up. I had him at 17. Or I had him at the early second round, and I was really happy when the Giants drafted him. He was a letdown. He was definitely a disappointment. But if I had to answer your question as to who is the most likely guy to take the biggest step forward in year number 2, it's DeAndre Baker. Now, one factor that I think we got to see what they do at the corner position. I think they need to bring in a veteran corner to take some pressure off of Baker, and I think they will. And if they do that, I do think DeAndre Baker will take the biggest step forward. But all those guys I said, Daniel Jones will be relying on the offensive line in the run game and the health of his surrounding players. If that happens, he could be number 1. Darius Slayton could certainly be number 1. Along with a bunch of other guys. Julian Love, really looking forward to what he brings to the table. But there's your answer, Nick. I appreciate the question. Thank you for being a great subscriber, and hopefully I see some of you guys tonight. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.